All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And welcome to today's webinar. So today we will be talking about um, building powerful profiles in LinkedIn, um, and some tips and tricks along the way that I've recently learned that I think would be quite helpful to you. So hopefully this is helpful no matter where you are in your journey with LinkedIn, if you are just starting or if you've had it a while and maybe you're looking to revisit your profile because of whatever reason, you're re-entering the workforce, you're reinvigorating your job search, whatever that reason may be. So I see some familiar faces on the list today. So some of you all have been through this before, so apologies for the first couple slides. But for those that I do not recognize, welcome and thanks for joining. This is the third webinar in our Job Search 2.0 series. And so, if you want additional information on ones that were previously in the series, did not have a chance to attend, just let me know. My contact information down there is down there below. Feel free to shoot me an email real quick if you want. So generally speaking, how it goes is I usually do a few slides of content. We'll have a pause for questions. And so even if you've got a question and you just don't want it to leave your brain, you can go ahead and throw it in the Q&A, and we will get to that when we get to the pause for questions. So some things we'll be covering today are a few really must-do things with your profile, because there's so much that you could put into it, and really where you put your time and effort. So a few things that are really, really important for you to focus on at first. And then understanding settings and privacy. And then profiles in the job search with LinkedIn. And so this part is just kind of be skimming the surface a little bit. Next week with our next webinar, the last one in the series, we'll be diving more into sort of advanced strategies with that. So again, apologies if you've heard this. If you are new, I always like to start off with a little bit of resources. So I have been here 5.5 years at the University of Richmond. And one of the reasons why I love working here is because our alumni, so if you are a graduate of any of our academic programs, you get career services free for life. That's amazing. That's not something that happens very often in higher ed institutions. And so I like to let you know about what you have what you can take advantage of. So most of my job is one-on-one advising. So you can schedule an appointment with me. We do use a platform called Handshake. And if you've got questions about Handshake, just let me know. And then there's other resources over there too. As always, I will send out these slides, after the webinar. And the recordings are always on the YouTube page. I have a channel with the alumni relations YouTube page. So if you've missed content or if you want to review anything, it should all be there for you to access afterwards. And for those that were here last week with me, apologies. I will be getting you those slides very soon. It has been a week. So if you have any questions about these resources, please let me know. But I do want to dive into the content. So what's up with LinkedIn, right? It has been around for a while. I remember, I'm dating myself here, but I do remember when LinkedIn first came about, and it was very rudimentary, and people were quite unsure about what this thing was going to become. Was it actually useful? Because it was strictly just for connecting with people. And it really felt like the Facebook for this part of your life. So what's going on now? It's been around a while, back in 2003. And it, again, was strictly for networking purposes. It was just widely used by professionals to connect with each other. But now it has really become a kind of a premier tool in your toolkit. And I think the most important thing, and where most of my advice stems from when I talk about LinkedIn, is really this works by algorithms. And so it's really important to understand that, like so many things in our lives, this especially works by algorithms. And so knowing that information is really important to figure out how you can get noticed and picked up, how your profile can get noticed and picked up by recruiters on LinkedIn. This really has morphed into a premier place for recruiters to be sourcing, seeking talent, or if nothing else, just looking at your profile. If you're a candidate in one of their searches, they might just be looking you up. You can almost guarantee that out of, if nothing else, out of pure curiosity, they'll look you up on LinkedIn just to see what you have going on. So that alone is a really good reason to, um, even if you aren't necessarily leaning into LinkedIn for a heavy job search part of it, just having that really professional, updated visibility on LinkedIn is important because they will probably look you up just out of curiosity. I know I do for a lot of people. Um, and so there's just some really interesting stats there from recent studies. Recruiters who use 72% of recruiters use LinkedIn to recruit talent. So if you think about the world of a recruiter, they have how many job search sites are there? They have so many choices out there um, about where they can post jobs and source talent from. So many of them use LinkedIn because really quickly, if you don't know, so LinkedIn has um, like it's like a subscription, or it's an access level to LinkedIn that they can, like, their company can purchase. Um, and they get just really different search abilities with LinkedIn. So, sourcing profiles and candidates, and if you've been on there and you might have gotten some messages from recruiters saying, hey, I'm recruiting for XYZ role. You seem like you'd be a good fit, would be interested in applying. Um, that's where they're finding you, is through their recruiter access. So again, so many things you can do with LinkedIn. Today, I want to start with, again, sort of the profile basics and helping you feel really comfortable with that. And then just also some really helpful, interesting tidbits. Because one of the things that um, I did with my professional development this year was I actually just completed the um, Certified Digital Career Strategist certification. And so this is a cert that goes really deep into LinkedIn and a lot of information about it that most lay people don't know. I didn't know it, and I've worked in this industry for years. And it's run by somebody who uses LinkedIn as a recruiter and has worked in the recruiting space for a long time. And so it was giving a lot of sort of the behind the scenes of LinkedIn and how that's helpful for you and what you need to know. So some of this content is coming from that certification that I just completed. So again, I mentioned what are some must-do things, right? So if you're thinking about, okay, I need to refresh my profile, I've got to reinvigorate this job search. What are the first things that I want you to focus on? These things. And again, some of these slides are heavy content, so I will send them out afterwards. So don't feel like you have to, like, remember everything or write everything down. But I think the most important thing first to think about and remember when you are working on your profile, whether that's creating a new one or refreshing it, is this is all about building the narrative of where you are now and where you want to go, right? Because recruiters are going to be looking at you. Either you might pop up in a keyword search for them, they're trying to fill a role, or you've applied for a position, they're going to interview you for maybe a second or third round interview, and they're just curious what you have going on. This is the narrative, this is the story that you're telling. And so it really needs to reflect where you want to go. Okay. The background context, the things that you have done, the skills that you have, very important, yes, but it also needs to tie into where are you headed. So when you're thinking about this, first thing and foremost, very, very important here, headline. When you're talking about algorithms and how those pick up profiles on LinkedIn, when recruiters are searching keywords for roles, headline is that's where that search is going to pull from the most. It's going to find profiles that for headlines that match what they're looking for. So when you are revamping your headline, because one of the things to remember here with the headline is that if you don't edit it, it defaults to the current position and company that you have listed in your experience section. So edit that. It does need to be attention grabbing. And again, focus on your transferable skills or the skills that you want to be known for, right? If you're trying to make a career transition, you're trying to go into, let's just say, learning and development roles. Don't talk about the work or the skills that you currently have. Talk about the skills for that industry, your transferable skills, right? Talk about where you want to go. That you're branding yourself here. Also, a lot of people like to put, which, certainly is a part of many people's repertoire, is being a thought leader or a storyteller. If you have experience, if you're kind of a leader, that's great. Thought leader and storyteller are not really in job descriptions, right? They're not in keyword searches that recruiters are going to be using. So while they are nice to know about you, maybe you put those down in the About Me section, but for the headline, keep it to those keywords and transferable skills. Pictures, really, really important here too. From when your profile pops up in a list of profiles that match their search results, it needs to be engaging, eye-catching, and not stuffy, right? You need to look approachable. So again, what we recommend typically for the profile picture is shoulders and above. And that just makes it easier for you to see. So sort of like what you're seeing with me on screen, is that you don't have the full view of me sitting in my chair, right? A lot of people might have pictures that look really good that you're standing up and you have a great pose, and that's wonderful. But for how you're showing up on a computer screen or even on a phone, when a recruiter is looking at a list of candidates, shoulders and above is easiest. I do always say include a background photo. There's a space for it. And it just looks like, if you don't have one on your profile and they were to click on your whole profile and look at it, not having a background photo just kind of looks like you tried a little bit, but then you just kind of stop, right? So have a background photo in there. It does not have to be anything crazy. It should not be distracting, right? So you can do a quote or something that helps to brand yourself with where you want to be. Or a lot of people I know too just have kind of like a nondescript like city skyline. If you're local to Richmond, maybe do like the Richmond skyline. I think I have a blurry picture of a fountain just because it's nice, but it's not distracting. The third thing that you really want to think about here is the About Me section. But if you're going to focus on this, really figure out where you put your effort. First few lines, right? One, they do not need a novel. Okay. So they don't need, 4 paragraphs about you and all of this other stuff. Really just think about the first few lines. So the first line should really be a continuation of your headline. So it should sort of be like add-on, or if you think about like maybe supplemental information, right? It should be a continuation of that, not the same thing. Because again, when you're building your narrative with your profile, the headline is the hook, and then the About Me gives them more information. So you can use the first few lines to talk about some of the work that you've done. Treat it kind of like a summary. If you've worked with me before and we've talked about resumes, I usually recommend having some kind of a summary on there. You can think about the About Me section like that. And in terms of algorithm and getting your profile picked up by and noticed, Really, you can consider this as a place to also have a keyword dump, right? So this would help you align your profile with the roles and industry of where you want to be. And so you can consider having sections in here like ways I can add value, roles I'm targeting, next challenges I'm seeking, whatever you feel like fits your situation that gives you a space to put those keywords that are going to help you get picked up. And the last thing, but certainly not the least important here, is skills, skills. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. This thing always does it to me. Anyway, skills, very, very important here. LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn is great because it's ever changing and always evolving. Um, sometimes frustrating for the users, right? Because it's always something to keep up with. One of the ways um, where LinkedIn is really, really going is skills. They are focusing heavily on skills. And because recruiters are really, they're certainly open to career changers more than they used to be. And so recruiters are doing their job searches based not necessarily on like, have you been in this industry before, but what skills do you have? So LinkedIn is also really leaning into that. So what you want to do here, and if you've messed around with any editing recently, you've seen this, but if not, you'll see it when you do go mess around with it. So say you go to your experience section, you go to edit um, your the description of that job, which by the way, I always do recommend having a description in there. Um, Tie the skills on your profile to the specific jobs, right? And as a matter of fact, it's okay and very good to repeat skills because that's just, like the more that they see that, the more they see, oh, they're really good at this one thing or these few things, right? So be okay to repeat it. And again, it does need to be relevant to what you're applying for, particularly if you're a career switcher, you want to focus those skills that you're listing there on your transferable skills where you want to be going. Um, because if you scroll down in your profile, there is an entire section for skills and you can edit those, you can reorder them, you can take ones out that you were endorsed for that do not apply to you, because that happens all the time. I have been endorsed and I have no idea why, but I have been endorsed before for um, admissions work. I have held 0 positions in college admissions. Uh, so it's just something that I was endorsed for, and you can edit those and really make it fit what you're going after here. Sorry, I lost my mouse. Okay, so a few more things about profiles. So again, if you're going to focus your energy first on what's most important, hit those 4 things. When you feel like you're good with that, here's some other things to consider and know about your profile. I get this question a lot. How far back should my experiences go? It's kind of like you're with your resume. And again, LinkedIn, yes, they do have unlimited space. Do you have to put every single thing in there? Not really. You don't. So it really depends on a few things. If you've got, say, 10 or 15 years plus in the workforce, was your earlier experience significant or was it a big company name that's going to be eye-catching by recruiters? How many years of experience does a role require? And if you feel like you want to eliminate some experience just because of answers to those above questions, you can always use the About Me section to draw attention to your earlier experience, just as it might add another layer of, a sort of good context for you. Um, when you are editing your specific experiences that you have listed, add media. I love this. They did this a number of years ago. Um, but add media in there. It really um, adds that extra layer of context to what you're telling them that you're good at, right? So you can add, like for me, I have links to some articles that I've either written or been quoted in. You can link to videos, pictures, presentations you've done. All of those things, again, just help sort of provide that additional context to solidify your skills. Make sure, make sure that your titles that you have listed are verifiable, that they are true to the title you were given at work. And yes, that might feel very frustrating because maybe it's not descriptive of what you did, or um, you were given a certain job title, but then, like many people, you have so many more responsibilities, but your title didn't change, right? Um, Keep that title true to what your title is, and use the descriptions with that job and other parts of your profile to make up for the lack of description in that title. Because again, those are verifiable, and it's a bad look if you make up a new title. Um, this is one of the questions I get a lot. When you're doing when you're putting in descriptions for your experiences, do you use first person or not? Do you use bullets or paragraph? This is kind of like a choose your own adventure thing, right? Um, what speaks to you? How do you think this best fits what you need to put out there, right? And I think, again, at the end of the day, the most important thing is, are you talking about those transferable skills? Are you using the keywords and the phrases that are in those jobs that you want to be in, right? Are you hitting those algorithms? So whatever you choose to do is fine, as long as you're hitting those marks, which is different than a resume where they're definitely, you would not use first person and not paragraphs really. I think that's one of the frustrating things about LinkedIn, is that it feels sometimes like there are no rules. Because I mean, really, it's whatever you want to make it. Um, uh, a lot of times. So, avoid labeling jobs as contract or part-time. I mean, I've had my fair share of contract and part-time roles in the past. But the recruiters, I mean, really, it just matters where you got the skills, not necessarily that you have a contract or a part-time gig. And a couple things, and then we'll come back to the open to section, which is a really important thing to explore if you haven't. Recommendations are definitely important on profiles. If you can get a few, give a few, right? It's a mutual relationship there. But again, those are just in terms of additional context, additional layers of showcasing your skill sets. Recommendations are great. Edit your profile URL if you haven't played around with that. That's what the images there are on the right. Definitely do that, especially if you're putting it like on your resume or something like that. Would be really helpful. And plus, it's just easier to be found on a Google search if you have an edited URL. Now, the open to section, if you were to go on your main profile page, I think it's a blue button, right? Like almost under your headline that says open to, and you can edit that. Here's a couple really important things to know. The vast majority, I think it's something like over 80% of LinkedIn users have open to on all the time, right? This does not blast to your network that you're looking, doesn't blast to your network what you're doing in terms of searching. The majority of people will choose the recruiters only option, which is what I recommend, honestly. Even if you are openly searching, this is what I personally recommend. It's also just great for confidential job searches. This is almost the number one question I get about this. Even if you have this turned on, recruiters at your company cannot see that you are searching or that you are open to. So that's a non-concern at this point. So, again, even if you're searching and you want to keep this just between you and yourself, you can turn the recruiters on only, and it's not going to signal to your current company that you are searching, right? The other thing to consider here too, and this is again just about getting picked up with algorithms, is part of what you can fill out here with the open to is job title that you're interested in. Do not write in your own job titles. Like, so for me, if I was going to put in just say assistant director, which is really general. But if I was going to put an assistant director, I would not type that in myself. I would start typing in like assistant or career, for career advisor, I would start typing in career and see what pops up with the LinkedIn search and choose one of those options, because those are the options that recruiters are using when they're looking around LinkedIn on profiles. So if you write in or make up something, that's really probably not going to hit the mark of what they're looking for. Okay, we have a pause for questions, and I see we do have one in here. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'll get to that. Okay. Good question. How many skills should I tie to each job description? Is there a recommended minimum, maximum? Not really. I mean, I mean, just personally, I think I would base it off of sort of visual appeal here, if that's the question of where you're at. I mean, one, are you getting in are you talking about the skills you need to talk about, right? Are you leaving anything out, I think is the question. If the answer to that is no, you're not leaving anything out, and you have, again, I would do it on visual appeal, probably 5 to 10, maybe a little bit less than 10. So again, I just think it looks, how does it look? Does it look overcrowded with how many you're listing? Sorry, Anne, that's not a great answer to your question, but I hope that gives you some place to go with that. But I would say first and foremost, are you listing the skills that you need to list? And that would be probably the most important question there. There we go. Okay. Settings and privacy. Really important thing to think about. Honestly, before I even took this, the certification that I just finished for LinkedIn, I really did not pay any attention to my settings and privacy, and I should have. I should have looked at this. Now, if you haven't messed with it or it's been a long time, because they are always actually changing their settings and privacy, like, what you have options for and things like that. So it is a good practice to every once in a while check these out, just to make sure that they're still where you want them to be. So of course, what you would do is just, I think top right, is your like little profile picture, and it has the triangle drop down. That's where you're going to get your settings and privacy. So when you get there, the image on this screen shows what you're going to see on the left-hand side of the page. So these are all the main categories, and then of course they all have a bunch of subcategories. What I want to focus on here are the ones that are sort of the pay attention to first. Okay. I do encourage you, when you have time, to explore more of what's in all of these subcategories and really check them out and see what might work and not work for you. But these are, when you're actively using LinkedIn and or using it to apply for jobs, um, these would be the ones that I think you should really focus on first time around. So under the account preferences, that top one there, one of the first options you'll get, and if you want to, while you're also listening to me talk, you can kind of play around with your LinkedIn profile or not. But under the name, location, and industry, that's kind of what shows up for recruiters as like your intro card. So when you apply for jobs, if your profile matches a lot, and you show up in their search results, they're going to see your intro card. So this is what they're going to see about you. Now, please know that you have the option to not show your current company in your intro card. That is a checkbox there. So if that's important for you, make sure you change that. In the industry section, this kind of drives me bonkers, but you do have to, this is a required part that you have to fill this out. The recommendation here is to, for example, if you're a career switcher, have it be your current industry, but then use your about me and like your headline to showcase your other interests and where you want to go. Under the visibility category, the things that you really want to look at and pay attention to are profile viewing options. So this is going to show how you show up when you're viewing other people. Now, your preferences on this can change depending on where you are in a job search, how active you are, or if you're, say, interviewing and you want to be showing up to people when you're viewing their profile. That can be very helpful. Or sometimes you're just really doing in heavy research mode, and you don't necessarily want to be seen, and that's okay too. I certainly have periods where I want to be seen as completely private, and other periods where I want to be open, like say, like the way that, for me, it's if if I'm heavily interviewing or even job searching and trying to network, I might want to be visible because that shows my genuine interest, and that shows the fact that I'm doing, like, if I'm preparing for an interview, it shows that I'm doing my research, right? And that's a good thing. So you can mess around with the profile viewing options to see how they basically have like a full view, like you're completely open. They have a mid-range and then a completely private option. Look at also under the visibility piece, the share profile updates with network. Again, this is a personal preference thing. I say generally speaking, no, because especially if you're in heavy editing mode with your profile, yeah, or maybe you turn on the open to button with your profile. You don't necessarily want all that information. I remember the days when LinkedIn did not have this option, and so anything that you changed or updated, it blasted it to your newsfeed, and it was very frustrating. The data and privacy category on the left, definitely spend some time here and poke around and see. And also, I think there's a couple of the things in visibility that are interesting. But data and privacy, who can reach you? So definitely look at that. And this really depends on how open do you want to be. Can third degree contacts reach you? Can second degree contacts connect with you, reach out to you? If you are heavy in networking mode and or applying and interviewing mode, you might want to keep this more open, right? Job seeking preferences here. Do take a look at this. So I think this is like a subcategory, which gets a little bit confusing, but you'll figure it out when you start poking around. So under the job seeking preferences with the job application settings, turn on the button to save uploaded resumes when applying through LinkedIn. So if you are going to be using LinkedIn to apply for jobs, which is not, again, it's an option. Your application materials do certainly still get to a recruiter that way. But if you were going to be using it to apply for jobs, save your uploaded resumes, because what this is going to do is it's going to pull keywords and whatnot from resumes that you have saved to your profile. And that's going to help you match up with those jobs that you're applying for. So again, it's just more keywords to hit and better visibility. Also under data and privacy, I think it is really good to turn on share your profile when you click apply. So again, if you're using LinkedIn to apply for jobs, you want your whole profile to show up for them so they can see the entirety of you, not just a few things like your picture and your headline and whatnot, right? Also here, turn on this, it's a long phrase, so I didn't put the whole thing in there, but signal your interest is what it starts with. So turn that button on as well, because so with LinkedIn, one of the options that you have, like if you've got, say, a target list of companies, or ones that you're just really keeping your eye on and interested in, you can create alerts for jobs from them to come through to you. And so if you create alerts for certain companies, when you turn this button on, signal your interest, if you apply for a job at that company that you've created an alert for, it highlights your profile and brings your application up more towards the top of that pile for that recruiter to see. So very good strategy. Um, this last one here, I would never have known this if I did not do this certification, which I thought was really interesting and slightly frightening, depending on where you land on this stuff. But under other applications, under data and privacy, turn off the Microsoft Word. I think this is just a good general practice here. But Microsoft Word, if you did not know, owns LinkedIn. And so just turn this off, because if not, Microsoft Word. So if you've ever used Microsoft Word for like resume templates, and if you really played around with it, Microsoft Word also has a feature with their resume templates that you can, like, it can help you create sort of content or bullet points and stuff like that. If you don't turn this off, those templates can pull, like, it's going to aggregate data from your profile and any saved resumes that pulls it into those templates. So again, you might not really care about that, but just in the sake of keeping, information private and securing your data, just turn that off. That was a lot. So I'll give a few seconds if anybody has any questions. Okay. I am shockingly ahead of time, surprisingly. This is actually my last slide for today, um which is interesting. It was good for me. So I just wanted to say a few words about sort of job searching in your profile. We talked about sort of some profile basics, things that you should be focusing on, and things that you should be looking at with your settings. But a few more things to keep in mind here. And again, next week we're going to dive much more into content about advanced strategies and some of the more other applications within LinkedIn that you can use to your advantage. So with the jobs tab, I think one thing that's really important to keep in mind here, it took me, it took me a while playing around with the jobs tab to really figure out how it works. Because if you, like most people, like most lay people, if you go into the jobs tab and you're like, oh, okay, I'm looking for learning and development roles, and you type into the search bar learning and development, you are probably going to get first of all, you're going to get a bunch of results. And probably a fair amount of those results are just not going to be hitting the mark for you, right? You're going to read through those jobs and go, this isn't right. Like, this is not helpful to me. So one thing to keep in mind here with that is a couple things. First of all, use the filters feature. I think it's a blue button towards the right side of that page that's, add more filters. They have a lot that you can play around with. So definitely use your filters option. You can also search for, in quotes, recently posted. And I think that's an option with filters too. But do that as well, because sometimes people run into outdated postings on LinkedIn. This is the thing I think that was a game changer for me, that I don't know why it didn't occur to me that you could do this with the search bar and the jobs tab. But I never say that, I'm going to butcher this word. I'm probably not even going to try to say it, but use this way of searching. I think it's Boolean. Use that, and so that is the quotation marks, right? Because that's going to keep your terms together. So if you're looking by roles, right? Learning and development is a title of a role, as opposed to, say, if you were looking for recruiter roles, that's just one word. But you would want to put learning and development in quotation marks, because that's going to Otherwise, your search results are going to search job titles and job descriptions for the word learning separate and including the word development. So you're going to get a bunch of stuff that's not related to what you want. So put that together as a term. You can also use the word "and" in quotation marks to help with the search results. So I think you're gonna help narrow stuff down as well. And it was really interesting too, that you can search your connections because you have the option to go to your connections tab and search them and just see what comes up. Use the word hiring when searching and see what comes up with your connections. Because a lot of people are, posting that they might be hiring or things like that. And so you can see who's talking about that kind of stuff. So some of the takeaways that I really want you to remember about today, because this is a place where LinkedIn is moving towards not so privately, skills are really, really important here. So that's why you want to connect those skills. That this is how you're going to get picked up and noticed on LinkedIn. This is how your profile is going to get moved up towards the top of that pile. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that LinkedIn is in beta right now, testing out. They are trying to get to a point where they sort of verify, like get that little green check mark, to validate job posters and companies because, unfortunately, scammers are in all parts of our lives. And they're in a lot of places that we are, and LinkedIn is no exception to that. If if an individual, an organization wants to get some money out of you, scamming about fake jobs is one that's been around for a while. So they are trying to get to a place where they verify or validate job posters and companies to say that they are not scammers. Again, referrals are, I mean, with everything in life, everything in your job search or your professional development, referrals really are key here. So use those to your advantage on LinkedIn. And first impressions only happen once. And so that's why I really wanted to start off the conversation with LinkedIn about your profile, right? Let's get this to a place where you're really happy with it. It focuses on where you want to go and it showcases those key skills that you have. And then get busy with it, right? So just first impressions happen once with your profile. And in terms of your profile, glanceability really does matter. Made up a word. I like it a lot though. Glanceability, right? Like if somebody were just to look at your profile and just spend about 10, 15 seconds looking at it, what's the impression they're going to get? And is that impression where you want to go? Is that what you want to be known for? I think that's a really good, I don't know what the word is I want, but it's a really good way to judge yourself on that. Are you hitting the marks? Last but not least, something that I wanted to discuss for a couple minutes was LinkedIn Premium. Among the top questions about LinkedIn that I'm usually asking an appointment is, should I get premium? I will sort of, first of all, like, okay, what is involved in premium? And I think the answer to, is it worth it, is then an individual decision. But I mean, I'll tell you what I think too, for what it's worth. So with LinkedIn Premium, there's a couple big things that you get with them. LinkedIn Premium, and what they will sell to you is that you get LinkedIn Learning. Now, if there's anybody on the call that is a current University of Richmond student, through that, with your UR email and single sign-on credentials, which there might be a workaround there. If you're an alumni and you still use your single sign-on credentials, you could try it. I can send out the link through our IT help desk. I can send out the link to access this because there's a certain landing page you have to have. So with those credentials, you do get actually the LinkedIn Learning. You don't get premium for free because that would be too much. But you do get the LinkedIn Learning access for free because little known fact, LinkedIn Learning bought lynda.com, which lynda.com used to be kind of a premier. What LinkedIn Learning does now is, free short courses, things like that. So a few years ago, LinkedIn bought them, and University of Richmond used to give lynda.com, used to give free access to our students. So the big things that LinkedIn Premium will sell to you that you get is the learning modules, and those are really interesting to explore if you haven't. I mean, they cover a wide range. There's thousands of short or longer form courses if you want to take them. Everything from Excel basics to um, instructional design certifications and courses and things like that. And they're all taught. They are valid. They're really good. They're substantial. They are all taught by industry leaders and experts. So, you know, if if that was the only reason, there's also places like Coursera. So again, not sure if that's interesting. There's that piece, and then the other big thing with premium is the in-mail feature, which when you have premium, and this is one thing that recruiters like a lot with it. When you have premium, you get a lot of. I think they do actually technically give you a cap. When you have the recruiter access, you get unlimited, but with the premium, you get it's a lot, but you get in-mail messages. So in-mail allows you to message through LinkedIn, but the difference is that you can message like third degree connections. So if this was really important to your networking, which there are workarounds, right? If you wanted to not consider premium, there are workarounds to this, but it just gives you the ability to message anybody through InMail. Now, when you have the free version, like most people have of LinkedIn, you can certainly still send messages to first degree connections. And then the workaround from InMail is to ask first degree connections for introductions, right? But those are the big features with LinkedIn Premium. And there are some other small ones, but they're kind of, the other one too is visibility to see who's viewed your profile. Like even if they're viewing in a certain mode, like you can still see some information about them. So I mean, there's been times certainly where I have signed up for like 1 or 2 months of premium, if I was heavy job searching and I was just really curious. And for me, seeing who viewed my profile was just a curiosity thing. It was not necessarily like this was really helpful to my job search. It was insightful, but not something that really helped put it over the edge. So I'll leave you with that. Those are sort of the big things. I mean, is it worth it? Are those things going to really be helpful to you? In my experience, frankly, they were just not helpful to me, but they might be helpful to you, right? The other thing too to consider with LinkedIn Premium is that you can do a free month trial. You can sign up for it for a month, but make sure you put that notification on your calendar to cancel it, or they will charge you. Absolutely, they will not hesitate. So you can try it for, a couple, 2, 3 weeks and see if this is helpful to you or not, and whether that's it. But those are the big things with LinkedIn Premium. And I just, a lot of people don't necessarily need to have it. So leave you with that with LinkedIn Premium. That is the end of my formal presentation. If you have any questions, you can feel free to pop them in the Q&A. But otherwise, I do really appreciate you all being with me today. And I hope that you walked away with some helpful information. And again, so next week will be the last one in this series. So there'll be the advanced strategies with LinkedIn for job seekers. Oh, apparently my 9 key is not working because it's supposed to be February 29th, not the 2nd. And so it'll be again 12 to 1. So if you have any questions about that, let me know, or the content today. But again, I'll be sending out my slides. and some supplement information. So I appreciate you being here with me today. Enjoy the rest of your day.